The Venom sequel Let There Be Carnage will return Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock aka Venom and Woody Harrelson as the new villain, Cletus Kasady aka Carnage. The trailer is less than 3 minutes long, opening some sightings of some scenes that we will enjoy throughout the film later. So here Venom sequel Let There Be Carnage trailer breakdown. The first scene takes us back to San Francisco through the beautiful scenery by the bridge, where in this city Eddie Brock enjoys his daily life as a freelance journalist. At her apartment, Eddie Brock and Venom strive to adhere to the agreement to do not prey on humans. As a reminder, Eddie posted the rules on the walls of his apartment.
You cannot just go around eating anybody that you want to.
I cannot.
No, you cannot.
Venom is trying hard to adapt to his new habits with Eddie Brock being his host. Venom tried to learn how to cooking until enjoy radio broadcasts. In his room Eddie is seen to have 2 chickens which might be used as food for Venom if he can't contain his urge to eat raw meat. An interesting detail of this apartment is when Eddie receives a number of letters, one of which is probably the same message seen in Cletus Kasady's cell room and also written by him. Moving to Chen's shop, this character is finally back and now even looks familiar with Venom.
Hey, Mrs. Chen.
Good evening, Venom.
Function Hall, Mrs. Chen.
The beginning of their introduction occurred in the post-credit scene of the first film, when Venom saved Chen's shop from a robbery.
In fact, you go anywhere in the city, pray.
This parasitic creature clearly looks set to be more friendly. We also found Stanley's face again making his cameo appearance through a magazine cover in the first film. In the upcoming films Stanley will of course only be present in this way. We turn to the holding cell of Cletus Cassidy who is scribbling a paper around it. Obviously there is the same paper seen in Eddie Brock's room. At this point we can assume that Cletus Cassidy intends to make contact with Eddie. Interesting details can be found on the walls of this cell room. We find so many clues starting with the sweet sentence written in this trailer. It looks like an attempt by the security forces to execute Grief for his criminal actions, so it could be cool here is the death row inmate who is just waiting for his execution. We can also see that the phrase "the Phoenix will raise," a character from the X-Men franchise which is an alter ego of Jean Grey which in the sense is now back owned by Disney and Marvel Studios. To use the Phoenix name it might be problematic, but I don't know. There are some sentences that can also be seen but are still a bit difficult for us to read.
Because you and I are the same.
Switching to the cell room view from a different perspective, we can see a number of pictures and other writings, the most striking of which is a picture of a large tree with a branch of a living creature resembling a spider. Then in the middle of the large tree there is a glimpse of a heart. If this is picture of Cassidy's past life then the possibility of his past related to spiders or maybe even related to Spider-Man. We turn next to it there is an engraved image of a building with a person in the middle which is probably a picture of Cletus Cassidy himself. Below it is a picture of a holding cell with Cletus Cassidy inside. And then below it is a grave in the ground called Hell. Cletus Cassidy is being sentenced to death for a number of crimes that might adapt the comic story, where Cletus Cassidy is told to kill his own parents, and then after his death he hopes to rise up like the Phoenix will raise we found earlier. For those of you who don't like spoilers, just skip this section. Andy Serkis, the director of the movie, said that they both Eddie and Cletus Cassidy have a strange past with their relationship with their parents and family which is also strange. There is a loneliness between them that sticks and makes them recognize and connect with each other.
I've been thinking about you, Eddie. Because you and I are the same.
That's why Cletus Cassidy will talk to Eddie Brock and the police to help with the investigation. They want Eddie to come in and try to find the whereabouts of some of the bodies of the many victims who fell due to the actions of Cletus Cassidy. The next scene shows Venom doing his vigilante action to save women and this time getting what he wants, a human brain. This includes part of the Eddie Brock and Venom agreement or deal at the end of the first film.
Deal is you will only ever be allowed to eat very, very bad people.
Venom can actually consume humans, but only evil humans. The next scene becomes the main concern in Eddie's investigation, trying to trace a number of clues about Cletus Cassidy. The first is that on his laptop a page from the Daily Bugle opens. We also now have a new character named Patrick Mulligan, played by Stephen Graham. In the comic Venom vs. Carnage, Patrick is the first host of a new symbiote named Toxin, which is the seed of Carnage. This means that Toxin is probably being prepared for appearance in future movies Sony Pictures of Marvel characters. In the comics, this Toxin is even stronger than Carnage. He has the abilities of his predecessors, but with much greater power. The Toxin even bonded with Eddie Brock in no time. The detail that is being discussed, it is actually a truncated sentence that looks like a flash of two writings suspected of being Avengers and Nightmare, now related to the Daily Bugle. Actually, Avenger also has its own branches we said earlier, which we know as West Coast Avengers. Next there is Anne Weying, played by Michelle Williams. This character is re-emerged, who is a lawyer and also the ex-fiancée of Eddie Brock. It seems that their relationship is still not good, even though Anne Weying can provide the help Eddie needs in his investigation of Cletus. And finally, we can see the Ravencroft Institute facility, one of the super tight security facilities that is devoted to detaining supervillains.
How do we leave them? Waiting in the darkness.
This facility first appeared in the comic Spectacular Spider-Man issue number 178, which was released in July 1991. Ravencroft has an interesting story for Carnage. Doctors and security do a blood test for Cletus, the Carnage symbiote, and Cletus's body awakens again. Carnage ends up killing the guards and the doctors in the facility. When Carnage is busy with his murderous actions, we finally meet Shriek aka Frances Louise Barrison, who is being isolated in a source. This character is played by Naomi Harris. Carnage releases Shriek until they both kill everyone in the facility. It looks like this story has the opportunity to be adapted into a film. As we know, first made Shriek debut in Spider Comics Man Unlimited issue number 1, released in May 1993. Shriek can produce sound waves that can be utilized in the form of explosions. She can also awaken one's dark side. In the Maximum event of Carnage, he used this power to drive the entire city into madness and create chaos everywhere. When using her power, one eye will look strange and shining. In the comics, Shriek got his power from Cloak's dimension. At first glance, a helicopter unit can be seen flying through the air, followed by a film action perched on a building, possibly in the vicinity of Ravencroft. And this is a situation where the facility is getting out of control. But what's really interesting is the thing that Venom is carrying that looks a lot like a stick, or maybe it's a katana. Next is a message written by Cletus intended for Eddie Brock, as we said earlier. What really bothers me is the presence of a spider. What's clear until now is fans are still hoping that Spider-Man can be present in this film. Maybe a sign that in the upcoming film we can see a side-to-side battle between Spider-Man and Venom to face Carnage.
Welcome back, Eddie Brock. It's been a long time. Miss you.
The meeting Eddie and Cletus is finally shown again after in the first film. This time in the latest Cletus look without his long curly hair. From their meeting, that has taken place more than once, it is not impossible that Cletus here has been possessed by the Venom symbiote fragments but has not reacted at all. It's also natural that Cletus doesn't get the same effect as when Eddie was possessed by Venom, because Cletus and Carnage actually have the same desire, which is to kill. Followed by a scene where Cletus is in a room preparing to receive an injection. This is definitely a callback from the comic scene. But it looks like this is not a blood test, but a death execution for Cletus. This is the time when the Carnage symbiote first reacts to kill everyone in the facility.
Soon come chaos.
On the way, Carnage will also free Shriek, who looks out of control with his telekinesis power in his chamber. And they will walk out of the Ravencroft they have destroyed. There is one scene that shows another burning building which may actually have happened in the past and looks very similar to the picture of Cletus on the wall of his prison cell. In the end, Venom took action to save the victims in Ravencroft, but he had to get in trouble where Venom actually couldn't stand extreme heat, while Carnage had the advantage that he was much more resistant to heat. Venom also turns out to be about to pounce on Patrick Mulligan's head. I'm sure that won't happen because Eddie Brock holds Venom back, but we'll just have to wait to see in the film.
The chocolate delivery hasn't arrived yet.
No!
We had a deal.
What's gonna happen? You gonna stop protecting me?
I am happy to eat, Mrs. Chen.
No.
Finally, Venom and Eddie protested to Mrs. Chen because the chocolate stock in her shop had run out. Venom's interest in chocolate has actually been shown in the first film, And if Venom consumes chocolate, then he will momentarily forget his desire to eat human brains and raw flesh. We still have plenty movie like this. Click this link to watch The Abyss plot summary. The Abyss is one of the James Cameron movies that are less known in the movie scene. While you at it, hit that like button, don't forget to subscribe. You might even want to hit that bell and get notified every new video comes out. Alright, I will see you soon on the next video. Later.